4 minutes past 10. It's time for another stream. Ah, what a lovely day it is. Welcome, one and all, to the Everything GM broadcast, where we learn things about ourselves and are called out on a regular basis. If you missed the morning stream, we did My Child Lebensborn, and it got even worse somehow. Also, welcome. Please make yourself comfortable. Please make sure you have a drink in your hand, that you're staying hydrated. Please tell me about your day. I'd love to know how your day's been going, and make sure to give me your mental health and physical health out of 10. I'd love to hear what your body's telling you today, and what your brain is telling you today. And yeah, get comfy and enjoy, because today we're diving into the reading corner once again. Yes, it's time for the place where it's time for the segment of the stream where I take something that you have written, you being a member of the community, and we read it together, and I give you exactly the kind of feedback that you want, and I also provide you with some assistance if you need it. I analyze your work, I break it down, I tell you what's good about it, I tell you what you can work on. And today is a very special day, because if you haven't been around for the last couple of reading corner, if you've been around for the last couple of reading corners, you would have been okay. But quite a while ago, we read an entry by a community member called Dead Abyss, which is a novel in progress by our very own Zareeth, the man of dog himself. Zareeth produced this title for our audio enjoyment thanks to me, and our visual enjoyment thanks to his own writing skills, and we had a very, very good time. I think we've done it twice now. So you can go back and look for Dead Abyss in the reading playlist on the channel if you want to listen to the other stuff that he's done. But we're going to give you a little recap for how we've for how far we've come, and then we're going to read where we left off. And we have a couple of 1,000 words for us today, and once we're done with that, we should be done. It shouldn't take more than 2 hours, I think. I can't wait to get into this. I've been very excited to read a new installment of this. This feels like my favorite show is getting a new episode. It is lovely. I'm very, very hyped, and I hope you are as well. So yeah, Zareeth is a very, very, very skilled writer, so you're in for a treat. It's very good. Very, very nice. And speaking of Zareeth, hello, Zareeth.
Hi.
Zareeth, Alfred, Chris, Baron. Very good. Hello, everyone. Apparently, I keep my sense of touch in dreams out of 10. That sounds pretty sussy to me. I think you need to explain yourself. 10 out of 10 both. Hell yeah. Very good. MJ's going to Siren's Folly out of 10. You're damn right I am.
Hell yeah.
6 since yesterday, so 7 mental, 5 physical. I am also sick. I have woken up with massive congestion that persisted throughout the morning stream. It's okay, we had fun anyway. And my one nostril is completely blocked, and until such time as I wait a few hours, in which case the other one will turn completely blocked. That's how colds work, unfortunately. I do have a cold, but we're going to get through this reading stream. No problems, hopefully. I found some underrated manga today, Lucid Dreams. Oh, cool. Wait, the Lucid Dreams is not the name of the manga? You were talking about Alferg having lucid dreams. Okay. What's the name of the manga you found? Also, Zareeth, how are you today?
I'm good. I was up until like 4 a.m. for no particular reason.
Yeah, for no reason at all. And not contributing to our parenting stream with some very incredible, some very informative World War II knowledge and trivia.
I definitely didn't yap about a like 90-year-old war.
Yeah, no. When would you ever do that, honestly? Like, that's not something that I know you for. I don't really...
Never.
I don't really know you to be interested in history at all, really.
Crazy.
Yeah. Right. Before, I think... Let me try and... Here we are. Troubled waters is where we left off. Am I right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Excellent. I appreciate that you've highlighted in red where I stopped, so that I can fully be fully up to date with everything.
I take into consideration sometimes.
Very good. No, this is good. Okay.
MJ, I meant to say this morning, but your skin looks lovely today. Take that how you will.
My skin looks lovely today. Hang on. Now I need to get a little closer. My skin... Hold on. My skin... Wait. Does it? Oh, thank you.
I'd say so.
I appreciate that. I feel like my neck gets these weird rashes on it because my neck beard is very sensitive. My skin is very sensitive to the hairs on my neck, so I get pretty rashy there most of the time. But the rest of me, I'd say I'm pretty lucky most of the time. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
I would also say that your skin looks lovely today, but I actually haven't seen your face in many months.
Yeah, you did see me once. I nearly choked on a Nerf dart, if memory serves.
Wait, no, that's true. I do remember. Oh wait, no, your bongo solo. That was last year.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
that. It was also in a reading stream. That was great. Might end up napping through the stream since I've been up and down since yesterday. Well, this is a reading stream, so napping is perfectly fine. I really gotta pee and someone just started showering out of 10. Go pee. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. Right, we're gonna, this is good. This is good. Maybe a little camera overlap. That'll be good. Okay, excellent. Let's get going, shall we? If you haven't joined the Discord yet, now is the time. But I'm pretty sure everyone here is part of the Discord as well, so let's get going. Before we do this, I would like to, I've also had an idea. I have had an idea. Give me a moment. I have had an idea to evolve our reading streams to involve music. As you know, I have Pocket Bard, which is an incredibly powerful royalty-free music tool that lets us add ambience to whatever we do. How would you feel about testing that? Of course, you
I would be more than happy.
You wouldn't know because I'm... Actually, you know what you're going to do? You're just going to look on stream because, you're on the same document as me, so you can just open up the same document and it'll be fine. But if you watch Pocket Bard, you'll get live access to the music that's going on. So if you watch my stream now, that's what this is Pocket Bard. And if you don't know what Pocket Bard is, it's incredible. Absolutely amazing. And I'm thinking I might try and do something with this.
Brother, there's literally one called Shipwreck. What do you mean?
I mean, yeah, exactly. Look at that. Hang on. And then we go, well, this is called Shipwreck Cove, actually. Oh, shit, you can edit the title now? What? Wait, huh? Add up to 8 ambience and sound effects in this. Whoa. One shots is what? Brother, what is...
One of them was just an explosion.
There's new stuff now. You can edit things and stuff. What? Hold on. That's actually crazy. Whoa, there's a lot more stuff. That's so crazy. Okay. They have a lot more stuff now. This is actually insane. Okay. I'm hoping... Wow. This is so cool. Ooh! Okay.
My.
Yay, splashing. And a falling body on the... You know what I'm going to do? We're going to try. We're going to try and use this. And I'm going to try and incorporate Pocket Bard as we go. Okay. All right. So before we do this, we have to recap where we were last. So allow me to take you on a journey as I read the thing that Zareeth gave me. Or you can read it as well if you want. What do you think?
What would you prefer? So I'll be honest, I'm In
How
terms of like
confident do you
speaking
feel
aloud, I stumble over words. Like I can
That's
I
not a
can yap
problem.
I can
Brother.
yap for hours, but if I'm reading something, I have to do like double takes.
There are currently 4 other people watching this, so it's not as if you are speaking to millions. You'll be okay. If you want to try, then feel free.
True. This is not a TED talk.
No. You want to try it?
Yeah.
Okay. The music is going. Whenever you're ready.
Nearly 4 generations ago, the nations and factions of the world exchanged nuclear fire over an island nation off the coast of the Americas. Within 2 years, the lands became so hostile and sour that the remnants of humanity had no choice but to seek refuge on the world's vast oceans. Oil platforms, military fleets, cruise liners, and anything that had a chance of traversing these now toxic waters. In the current day, our protagonist, Lucas, was born and raised on the neutral oil rig known as Neptune's Rest. His life, for the standards of an ocean-bound apocalypse, was somewhat average, earning his survival as one of the gunboat captains for Neptune's Rest by helping to fight off wayward beasts or ferry travelers between rigs. At 24, Lucas and his best friend Carl were chartered to ferry a new client and his 2 bodyguards to the neighboring oil platform of Siren's Folly. The client introduces himself as Adam and offers Lucas an almost unbelievable amount of wealth in exchange for this simple ferryman job. Unable to resist the temptation, Lucas accepts and assembles a crew of 4 more individuals: Gear, an experienced engineer; Lucia, a young woman who hovers between life and death after exposure to irradiated ocean water; and 2 teenage brothers, Jonah and Jacob. With Adam's party in tow, the group of 9 take Lucas's gunboat, Scylla, out on a seemingly simple yet profitable transport job. Shortly into their journey, Scylla is enveloped in a dense fog, and Adam's true motivations slowly come into question. Weapons are drawn, and the 2 groups standing upon Scylla's deck are moments away from slaughtering each other, when suddenly they are intercepted by a foreign vessel within the fog. A standoff in Scylla turns to unity as they fight off the opposing gunboat, but not without their losses. Adam's entire group, along with Gear and Jonah, are brutally cut down before the firefight can come to an end. The survivors on Scylla are left to pick up the pieces, deciding what to do next as they take ownership of Adam's mysterious metal container. Their planned reward undoubtedly inside.
Incredible. Very, very good. And that is where we left off. Oh, for some reason I'm still sharing Discord. Hang on. There we go. Had to switch a little bit.
BRB 1 second, continue.
Sure thing. So that's where we leave. We've had a job, it's gone bad, and now here we are. Slowly drifting in a sea with the wreck of the enemy ship around and losses to deal with. So here we go. The next minutes crawled by, the first few having been spent huddled around the control station and lamenting the loss of our comrades, Adam and his guards included. Eventually, Jacob's agony had turned to soft whimpers. A quiet murmur echoed against the bubbling background of the raider vessel slowly being devoured by the ocean's gentle waves. Lucia's frenzied goal of harpooning our opponent's bow during our dance of death had achieved her goal of sinking our enemy, though too late for it to affect our battle. The swirling depths of putrid water swallowed our foe in their entirety, bodies, weapons, the boat itself, and any evidence of why they were here to begin with. There we lingered in mourning, until the encompassing mist gave way, allowing us to see the faint outline of Siren's Folly in the distance. Our original destination, and now some hopeful sign that we might actually come out of this ordeal alive. Carl had been the first to move, walking along the length of our battered boat to search Adam and his guards for anything that might be of use. That eventually coaxed Lucia into moving, gingerly stepping around Jacob to access the control station. She retrieved a small rucksack, lugging it towards the aft of the boat, taking up Gear's vacant role of checking the engine for damage. I, on the other hand, just sat there in contemplative silence, with the metal container resting upon my lap. Only a few seconds of inspection was enough to inform me of 2 internally built combination locks keeping the contents within and away from my prying eyes. 2 locks, 4 numbers each, and a potentially endless list of combinations. I had contemplated procuring a tool from Lucia to try and break open the container, but the logical part of my mind talked me down from it. Were I to damage the contents within, then truly the suffering and pain would be for nothing. The logic resumed, and my heart skipped when I realized that Adam must have... Did you hear me? I glanced up, only now noticing the presence of Carl standing before me. Shaking away my flurry of thoughts, I let out a quiet sigh before setting the container aside. No, sorry. What is it? Carl nodded slightly, as if to show his understanding of why I wasn't exactly all there. He turned a little, motioning towards Adam's corpse. Searched him and his friends. A cigarette case and a lighter. About it. The handgun and the 2 revolvers. 4 bullets between them. 1 for the revolvers and 3 for... He raised his left hand, carefully brandishing the firearm that he'd looted from Adam during our firefight. Any notes? Codes? I asked quietly, as I eyed the pistol in Carl's grip. His lips formed a thin line and shook his head a little dejectedly. After a few seconds, his expression lightened a little, as if hit by some memory that only just came to him. When everything went to shit, I came to check on him. Don't know what they shot him with, but he bled out pretty fast. He said rigs, right before he blacked out. Carl muttered with a frown, his face reflecting the confusion that I, too, now felt. Without looking at the container, I knew that slice of information wouldn't help me unlock it. What do you think he meant by it? The question slipped out of me, still looking up at Carl like he had all of the answers. Again he shook his head, followed by a quiet sigh. I don't know, Lucas. Maybe he was telling us to get to a rig for safety. Maybe the Confederation man was cursing us neutral rigs in his last breath. Who knows? Just forget the box for now. We need a plan, Skipper. His voice gave away a little on the last word, giving away his own desperation for something to focus on. My gaze drifted from Carl, looking towards Lucia at the rear of the boat. She was elbow deep in Scylla's engine, but at the very least the lack of any audible cursing gave me some hope that our boat didn't suffer internally. Reluctantly, my eyes then shifted to Jacob, Carl's gaze soon following afterwards. The poor lad had hardly moved an inch, hugging the stiffening corpse of his younger brother as he wept until his eyes could offer no more tears, as if his sorrow might somehow bring his sibling back from the afterlife, so that their last exchange of words would be more than a boyish argument of who would steer the boat. Pushing myself to my feet, I took a couple steps closer to Jacob until my shadow cast over him. I tried to speak, but my heart ached for the kid. I wanted to give him all the time in the world to mourn, but the reality was that Scylla had to get moving before we risk another raider boat stumbling upon us. Quietly I sighed and crouched down near him so that I could speak a bit more softly. Jacob, I know it's hard right now, but I need you to get out of the cockpit. I can help with... Leave me alone. He cut me off, his voice breaking as he struggled not to fall back into his sounds of despair. Momentarily I looked back to Carl, watching him shake his head a little as he watched the scene unfold. With a soft sigh, I looked back to Jacob before reaching out with a hand. Before I could touch his shoulder for comfort, he brought up a bloodied arm to slap away my attempt. I said, leave! But now it was his turn to be interrupted as Carl stepped forward, grabbing at Jacob's wrist before the kid tried to tug his arm free. Slowly Carl leaned in, going for a different approach to my own as he spoke in a stern, yet calm tone. Listen, there's blood in the water. Torna's gonna be over us soon enough if we don't move. Your folks taught you that, right? Still, Jacob tried desperately to pull away, only for Carl to yank firmly on the lad's wrist and lean even closer. They'll cut up the hull looking for food. We'll sink. Then they'll eat us piece by piece. Me, the skipper, you, and what's left of your brother. You want to get him home? Then help me move him. Jacob sat there for a few seconds, fresh tears streaming down his cheeks. Eventually the teen gave a solemn nod, prompting Carl to release his grip. With the greatest of care, the pair carefully carried Jonah's remains out of the control station and towards the seating area. Jonah was laid out across the seats as Jacob rested beside him, not daring to leave his brother's side. I nodded to Carl in thanks before straightening myself out and stepping in front of the boat's steering wheel. The inside of the small cabin and the controls were coated in a misty layer of red, and the sight was enough for me to swallow down any attempt at throwing up again. I turned around, looking past the seating area and towards Lucia. "How we looking?" I called out, prompting her to pull her arms out of Scylla's engine compartment before shutting the hatch. Grabbing the rucksack of tools, she wandered over to the side of the canopy. Soon after, we were joined by Carl as Lucia explained our situation. Gear would know better, but a couple rounds went through the deck. Looks like we might be alright to head back to Neptune, though. She shrugged idly as she rubbed an oil stain off her left hand. Carl nodded in agreement as he looked between the two of us, but soon his gaze settled upon me. He raised an eyebrow and shook his head. "You don't agree, do you? You want to head for Siren still?" Carl grumbled, seemingly my thoughts on the matter being all too clear in my expression. I pointed towards the bow of the ship, indicating the sight of Siren visible in the distance. Then I motioned behind us at the departing cloud of fog that obscured any sight or indication that Neptune was even there. Siren might be closer. Plus, it's mostly a straight line there. We gotta do a hard turn for Neptune. If the rudder's damaged and gets stuck during the turn, we'll be heading in circles, then we're fucked for sure. I explained as calmly as I could, watching Carl's expression soften a little. Lucia stepped in, pointing a single pale finger towards Siren. "You forget the part where we'd need to pay for repairs. I don't know about you, but I didn't exactly bring any scrap with me. Unless you count the boat." She lightly kicked the side of the cabin, the echoing sound of thunking metal emphasizing her point. Briefly, I looked at Carl, and almost in unison, we then both glanced towards the seating area. Resting near Jacob sat Adam's ominous steel container. "Suppose that might be worth something?" Lucia muttered, evidently noting where we were looking. "It's not the box," Carl replied before glancing at me, passing on the responsibility of explaining what tempted us into this excursion. For a moment I considered trying to maintain the charade, keeping the secret between Carl and I. The moment passed, however, and in my heart I felt it was only right for the others to know the truth of the matter. Let's go here. I feel like this might be good too. Oh, hold on.
Hi, just real quick. Alpha's wondering if you're meant to be streaming thingy in Discord.
Pocket Bird.
Pocket Bard? Yes, because you can just go to the file and see what I'm reading online.
Ah.
You can just go to the link. Zareeth, Alpha, if you need a link, Zareeth can just give you one, I'm sure. That won't be an issue.
I can go find it if I want to.
I also want... Okay, let's go with this one. How's the music working, by the way? It sounds pretty cool, hey?
Nice.
Honestly, I like it. I definitely think it adds.
It really adds something to it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wills. A shitload of them. Just to get him and his friends to Siren. I nodded vaguely towards where Adam's body laid before bringing up an arm to wipe my forehead with the back of my hand. It's locked, but if we could get it open and find someone on Siren that's willing to accept wills, we're set. I took some time to explain it all to Lucia and Jacob if he was even diverting his attention away from his brother. Adam, the wills, Siren's folly, the Confederated Oceans. All of it. Her face turned a bit sour at the fact that I and Carl tried to hide the reward from the group. But in the very least, she didn't try to pin the blame of our losses on me. Good jobs going bad wasn't exactly an uncommon occurrence, after all. Instead, she just inclined her head, finally agreeing to the plan of going to Siren for repairs. Her eyes drifted a little, peering around on Scylla's deck. "What did we do about the bodies?" she asked. That question drawing Jacob's attention as the lad glared at Lucia. I made some assuring gesture to him, letting him know that his brother's corpse wasn't a concern. Keep Jonah and Gear. We'll get them home to their families. Adam and the others, overboard. If Adam was heading to Siren to meet someone, I don't think his friends would appreciate us docking with his body on our deck. I reasoned, Lucia and Carl agreeing quietly while Jacob returned his gaze back to Jonah. The pair beside me dispersed across the deck, moving to push the trio of corpses overboard. Intently, I watched Carl looming over Adam's body, reaching down to pick him up. Wait. How's his jacket? I questioned, peering out from inside the canopy. Any blood on it? Carl glanced over his shoulder, shooting me a judgmental glance until I pressed a finger to my chest and to the blood-soaked shirt that I was wearing. With that, he turned his attention back to Adam, working the body around to strip off his jacket. Quietly, I stared at the dead man's face, taking some pity that his journey had ended like this. Killed before he could even fight back, and now being looted just for my own comfort. To be tossed overboard is little more than bait for some ocean-faring nightmare. Adam's corpse slumped against the deck once more, and Carl held up the leather jacket, fur-lined, and despite a few small patches of blood on the interior, it looked to be in a good state. Approvingly, I nodded, resulting in Carl tossing it onto one of the cleaner seats behind me. Finally, my attention turned to the boat's controls, the dreadful sight of the layer of blood coating everything making me take pause. Even more so since I knew where that blood came from. Mustering what little willpower I had in my reserves, I reached out with one hand and gripped the steering wheel as I felt the slowly drying blood stick to my palm. My other hand held and turned the key. The steel floor below me vibrated, and I could hear Scylla's engine cough briefly before that mechanical hum came to life once more. A sigh of relief escaped my lips, and I slowly pushed the throttle forward. We pulled away, gliding through the still ocean. I stayed focused on the sight of Siren ahead, my silent thoughts interrupted only by the sound of heavy splashes echoing from the sides of the boat. 1, then 2, then 3. Just like that, Adam and his friends were gone, lost and forgotten to the endless radioactive waves that was our world. My mind drifted, wondering what Adam meant with his last breath. Reeks? Perhaps Carl had misheard him or Adam misspoke, but either option didn't make things any easier to accept. So many questions and worries, relegated to a single, unusable word. Oh boy. This is okay. I'm gonna take a stop there, and we'll take a second. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's shit. So, after hearing it for the first time, for you, Zareeth, hearing it being read, what are your thoughts on it?
So I didn't get back until when Carl had said Adam's last word. From everything that I caught from there, I really like how you read it. It gives the exact atmosphere that I wanted from it. It's sort of not quite dread, but there's a heavy sort of undertone with a little bit of mystery on top kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And I'm more talking about your own writing. It's quite. It's always a strange experience to have someone else read what you've written and hear the words that you've kind of pulled from your brain and hear them read back to you. When you think of what you've done here, is there something that stands out to you? Is there what do you think about it? About the story so far?
I do like where I'm going with it. How do I word it? So between when I last wrote about this back in April, a lot of things have sort of changed. Not as in the previous part of the story has been edited to extreme or anything like that. But when I first planned out this story, there was a huge amount of differences. Lucia actually wasn't meant to live.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, good job. Kill off your only woman. Very cool.
You
Good
don't have
plan.
to put it like that.
Good plan.
But then, like, sort of, when I was doing like the test readings with you,
Yeah.
and there was like an actual interest about Lucia from you and others. So I was like, how can I make this work? And honestly,
Okay. Interesting.
And I'm glad that I made that change because she's fitting in a lot, like, very well.
I like her. I think she knows a lot about the Scylla. She can fight. She carried a lot of that fight on her back when we read the last bit. Like, she was an actual beast. And I think there's something about her because of her, like, she's kind of like a sort of a Fallout ghoul in this universe. Like, she's like irradiated and shit. So I think that kind of gives her an almost feral approach to how she fights and how she behaves. She's very much, I'm gonna survive because that's what I do. And I like that. I respect that a lot about the character. I think that it really comes through in how she operates things. She fights really in quite a raw fashion, and she also she's not afraid to, like, get into the guts of the ship's engines and, like, mess around in that, as you very aptly described there. So yeah, I like her a lot. I'm glad that she's still alive. Yeah, okay. So for me, I think the thing that got me the most out of this in a good way is pacing. I thought the pacing has there's such a lovely measure. There's such a lovely rhythm to this part of the story. It feels, it feels, hang on, let me move here.
If your thoughts are like the same as mine, I've read like a lot of stories where sort of like details and actions, they either go like too slow or too fast, kind of thing.
Well,
and
yeah.
I'm trying to aim for like a sort of like you like I want people to paint the scene, but I want to give them like some room in their imagination to, like, put in details that whatever comes to your mind, kind of thing.
What I like about the pacing is that it's when you have writing that is too slow spends too much time describing things. Writing that is too fast tends to spend not enough time describing things, so we're completely lost. But the way you move from moment to moment is there are two things that I want to highlight as, like, strengths about this. The first one is that it feels like the way my head would naturally move. That's the best way I can describe it. So the way that the story moves is the way that I would be like, okay, I'm done with this. And then the book's like, yeah, we are done with it. Let's move on to another thing. And it's like, oh, cool. Okay. So there's this really good sense that the writer is self-aware of when to move from place to place and from description to description. It's really, really nice. You don't ever get tired of a description before it moves to another description. And I like that a lot. And it always gives you just enough information that you can paint a really good picture before moving on to something else. That's number one. Number two, I've noticed something, and again, I have to put it in a unique way, but it's more like, it feels like when you describe a thing, you describe something being done to it as the description of the thing. Let me see if I can find an example quickly. Hold on. So, like, up here,
the jacket, maybe?
Let me see. No. There was one that really got me. Here. So hang on, let's go with so it's from the perspective of Lucas, and as he turns his head, you move the pacing and you move the description from one to another, and it just feels very natural. But when something is done to something else, there's a lot of passive voice that is used for description, and I really, really like it. I just want to there. So like something small. I eyed the pistol in Carl's grip. Now we're moving to a pistol. Now it's in Carl's grip. And we slowly start to, it's like the camera focuses on the pistol and then widens the zoom so that you can see that Carl is holding it. Then we zoom back in on his lips, and we zoom out to his head, and then his facial expression lightens, as if hit by some memory, and then the memory is hitting him. That's then the description of a memory, and it's kind of this super fluid camera motion that doesn't jerk back and forth, and it's almost like it's following the literal head movements of Lucas as you go. And I don't know if it feels like it just naturally happens for you, because it comes up a lot. And I think it's a really good impulse. I think you should stick to it. It's really, really, really good. Because it makes it feel very natural, and it makes it feel like we are Lucas. As we look around and see all this stuff, it happens at the same speed that a human would like look around and see this stuff. And I love it. Really, really cool. The thing here... Huh... Hold on. There we go. Okay. So Carl moves. Carl walks. Camera follows Carl. Camera follows him moving towards Adam. Then camera moves as Carl walks, he walks out of frame. Camera stays on Lucia, then follows her. She steps around Jacob. Camera pauses on Jacob a little bit, and then cuts to her getting to the control station, bringing it back, and then takes up Gear's vacant role of checking the engine for damage. It's like a long take. Like, you've really... The cinematography in this is very gripping, and I like that. So yeah, I think that was my biggest feedback. Those were the biggest takeaways for me. That it was very cinematic, and it was the pacing was good, and the way that you describe things in terms of other things is wonderful as well. So far I'm blown away as usual.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But yeah, I think just sticking to these strengths and you'll go far as usual. But yeah, nothing has jumped out at me as like maybe rework this, maybe rework that. Everything feels very natural. I like the fact that there's a mystery, but I feel like you know what the mystery is, so I don't feel lost as a reader. I feel like there are going to be answers later on down the line, which is a skill as well. It's definitely... Sometimes, if you are an experienced reader, you can definitely tell if the author doesn't know what's coming next in the book and that they're kind of improvising it. But I like that you have an inkling of the direction that things are going, and I like that I can spot where seeds are being planted, like what's in the briefcase and what did Adam say, and you know what, like what's on Siren's Folly, and there are these plot points that are being laid at the beginning, so that they don't come out of nowhere at the end as like, this was the plot the whole time. It's like, you clearly improvised that. I like that there is a semblance of direction that we're going, which is very nice. Makes me feel safe as a reader. So yeah, all of this is fantastic. Very, very good. And with that, we shall continue.
As long as I'm hooking you in and ruining your emotions when, like, the more and more you read, I'm
incredible. I do find your description of Jacob for Jonah, or was it Jonah for Jacob? Who's the dead one?
Jonah is the dead one.
Okay, so yeah, the description of Jacob like grieving over Jonah, that was pretty heart wrenching. Especially when the grief turned into like frightened whimpering, like woo. Very good. I mean, I've talked about this in previous readings as well, that your turn of phrase is very good. So yeah, I mean, it's just the same, just more of the same, which is good. Okay, what vibe are we looking for the trip to Siren? What's Oh shit, it's actually a little bit. Hang on, let's go. Yeah, it's just this. All right, so let's go here. Maybe this is a. No, that's a little bit too.
Too upbeat.
It's a little bit too upbeat. Let's try that one.
That's too joyful.
Oh, this one's good. Okay. Here we go. The trip to Siren passed somewhat quickly after that, my mind preoccupied by what happened in the last half hour. I'd lost crew in the past, 3 before today, 3 across the course of 7 years. and today marked the first time I lost 2 in the same day. Along with my first dead client. Got shot at for the first time, too. The more I thought about it, the more I realized today had been a myriad of depressing firsts. Each one more sorrowful than the last, and still the day wasn't over. Eventually I worked myself back at reality, noting the growing outline of Siren, getting larger and larger as we moved closer. I focused, knowing that the last minutes of approach would be the most important. Each second was a silent prayer in my mind that Scylla wouldn't give up on us before we could dock. So many years of love and care for our rumbling machine, and all I was asking for was a few more minutes to get us through this. I apologized for all the dents in her hull, all of the rust, all of the mundane trips that had weakened her weary welding. Whispered promises that I'd reward her with new plating, a thorough cleaning, and anything else Scylla desired in exchange for our safety. Our loyal craft listened, and after a long while, we got close enough to see the local militia's gunboats moored at Siren's aging dock. Above them, hanging beneath the oil platform's foundation, dangled a large, yet withered sign. Welcome to Siren's Folly. Population 74. Oh boy. Must be a lot of incest there. Anyway. Sorry, the intrusive thoughts won.
Intrusive.
Oh my god, we're here. We're on Siren's Folly. That's insane. Okay. Slowly I eased back the throttle, letting Scylla catch her breath as she glided ever closer to our destination. Out of the corner of my eye, Carl and Lucia wandered into view as they walked to the bow in preparation for docking. Carl raised an arm, waving at the dock before a lone figure on the rampart waved both of his arms in acknowledgement. Luck had been on our side for once, and there was a space at the front of the dock with just enough space for Scylla to squeeze in. Her engine coughed as I eased us closer, my maneuvers being the highlight of my actions today. Very quick. Using the same word so close together jumps out a little bit. Maybe consider changing space to like spot or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's so small. It's such a nitpick, but it's just something that jumped out. Anyway.
I still appreciate that, thank you.
The stranger, an average-looking yet balding man dressed in blue overalls, stood ready. A bundle of rope in one arm, with the end of it already tied to the part of the dock. Even from my place in the steering station, I could see his face contort upon seeing the state of our boat. Oh god. A thick northern accent? Okay. Wait, how does... Oh god. It's a winter is coming type of voice, innit? What the bugger happened to you? A thick northern accent bellowed out of the man as he tossed the rope. Lucia and Carl caught it, tying up Scylla's railing firm enough that she wasn't going anywhere soon. Turning the key and taking it out of the ignition, I tucked it into my trouser pocket. Briefly, I looked at my hands, seeing my fingers and palms coated in blood. My gaze shifted towards Jacob and then Jonah as I swallowed. Stepping out of the small cabin, I turned to look up at the dock guard. Some kind of pirates. Killed 2 of my crew. Need to hire an engineer, maybe a cleaner too. You got anyone you can spare? We'll pay. I shouted to the man, watching as he helped Carl up onto the dock. Glancing around, I spotted our rucksack of tools resting against the side of the cabin. Opening it, I started to pour the contents out as equipment clattered loudly against Scylla's deck. One of the last few items to fall out was a pair of workman's gloves. Gears. I pulled them on, covering my bloodied hands temporarily before standing back up with the empty rucksack clutched in my left hand. Our impromptu angel looked between us with a look of surprise, and it would have been impossible for him to miss the mangled sight of Jonah in gear. Pirates! You're shitting me. Patrols are meant to sort them bastards out. He scratched the bald spot on his scalp, seemingly thinking about my request. As for a worker, you're shite out of luck, pal. We had a breach this morning. Most of the crew's dealing with that bollocks. Young laddie up in the growth rooms, though. He's a bit cracked, but he's a good lad. He thumbed over his shoulder towards the walkway that led up onto the rig's main platform. Name's Mac. Sorry about your crew, wish I could help. Backed up with other boats already, but give us a shout if you need anything. The man offered a nod, his gaze wandering over Scylla one more time before he turned to walk across the docks and back to his duties. Once the stranger was out of earshot, Lucia turned to look at me with a frown. You actually understood all of that? She questioned, and I returned a smirk. Most of the crew is fixing a breach. Best shot and engineers up in the growth rooms, but the guy might be strange. He has other boats to fix. I flexed my pseudo-translation, not wanting to confess that my mother's side of the family spoke somewhat akin to that butchery of English. I love how... I'm just going to stop for a second. I love how there's always a secondary way to describe something. You never just say a word. It's always... It always has an attachment to it, and I love that. I think it really helps build the world in a way that doesn't feel bloated. So there's always... there's always a sort of modifier on a lot of your words that help describe it nicely. So like that, somewhat akin to that butchery of English. You could have very easily just said, not wanting to confess that my mother's side of the family spoke that dialogue of English. Like this little attachment is something I notice a lot. It's very good. Anyway. Pirates. That's what we're going for. The tone shifted as Carl spoke up, looking down on both of us. My smirk faded at that, and I stepped over to the seating area to grab Adam's jacket. Putting it on, I slowly buttoned the front until finally the evidence of my bloody mess of a day was hidden away from prying eyes. The reason I said pirates is because I motioned to some vague direction where the dock guard had wandered off to. He might be with Adam. Pirates is the best I've got, alright? We don't tell anyone shit until we get back to Neptune. With that settled, I turned to look at Jacob. Were I to compare him to the last time I glanced at him earlier in the day, I could have sworn that he hadn't moved an inch. Arms crossed against his chest and his gaze fixated upon Jonah. His sadness had given way. Now the kid just seemed numb. His eyes almost unblinking, as if he was in a world of his own. Steadily I reached out, placing a gloved hand upon his shoulder. The action breathed some life into him, and he turned his head a little to look up at me with those vacant eyes. Lightly I squeezed his shoulder, offering a nod in understanding. I'm sorry, Jacob. He was a good lad. Eager to face the world like you. But if you're thinking any of this is your fault for not talking him down, it ain't. He wanted to steer and I let him. That's on me. And I'm sorry. I huffed quietly, looking past him for a moment to look out upon the ocean. Towards home, although we were too far to see it from here. I'll get you both back to Neptune and I'll make it up to your parents somehow. I don't know how, but I will. Solemnly I patted his shoulder, unable to bring myself to look at him again in case those vacant eyes might now hold any resentment for me. His silence kept me stable, at least. Instead, I reached for that steel container, cramming it into the empty rucksack. Securing the buckle and strap to keep the bag closed, I slung it over my shoulder before walking towards Lucia and Carl. I held up my hand, and reluctantly, Carl helped to pull me up onto the dock. First ensuring that Mac was on the far end of one of the dock's jetties, I then looked between the pair near me. I'm gonna find this engineer, get him to open the box, then he repairs Scylla, pay him, then we go back to Neptune, and then My mind trailed off. A sudden wave of stress distracting me. The relief of reaching the siren had worn off, and I just reminded myself that there were more steps to go before we even could go home. So much could still go wrong. Hey. A familiar voice pierced my anxiety, releasing me from my own subconscious mind as I looked at Carl. Listen, I knew that was Carl, even as I saw it, which is great, which is a sign of good writing. You have established the character that pulls Lucas out of his stress as Carl, and so when you hear a voice, even though you don't have to say that it's Carl, the reader knows it's Carl. That's brilliant. Really, really good. One step at a time, yeah? Engineer, open the case, then come back here with him. Want one of us to come with you. My friend eased my nerves, and I considered the offer before shaking my head. I shipped them. I got us into this, I'll get us out. Plus, the kid might need the extra company. I looked towards Jacob, who was out of earshot, now seeing that he was leaned back into his seat with his hands rubbing slowly over his face. My spirits lifted a little, glad that he at least now had the strength to not be as frozen in grief as he'd been moments ago. Here, Lucia spoke out from below, drawing my attention right before reaching into her deep pockets to pull out one of the small revolvers that Adam's guards had been carrying earlier. She held it up towards me, shaking it slightly in her ashen grip to encourage me to take it. It's only got one shot, but I'd rather you have it than go with nothing. Me and Carl will stay and see what we can do about some preparations for Jonah and Gear. Cover up the bodies at least. Make sure no one snoops around whilst we're at it. Another thing, talking about good descriptions, she held it up towards me. You literally could have just stopped there. But again, the modifier here is that she gave it a little shake, which is a lovely attention to detail. Another thing that I'd like to highlight. Very good. A bit more at ease. I nodded before crouching down to reach for and take the gun. Lifting the back of my jacket, I nestled the revolver between my trousers and the base of my spine, before hiding it as I lowered the jacket once more. I exchanged glances with Carl and then Lucia, the three of us offering some forced smile. Some mustered courage to push us through the last stretch. Thank you. Both of you. Is all I could utter before striding across the dock. A steady climb up the main walkway, and I officially crossed into the town of Siren. And we're here. Okay, wow, that's a pretty alright accent. 5-8, were you talking about the northern accent? I changed a little bit. I went slightly pirate for the first, and then I decided to go more neutral. So I'm glad that it worked for you.
Honestly, I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
This is one thing I like when you're sort of writing accents. Like,
I was
going
to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
like
for it.
when you're reading it, you sort of know how it's meant to like flow and how you're meant to like pronounce it and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely incredible. This is, yeah, so far, another little detail is the attention to how accents are pronounced. We've often talked about this on many other reading corners, where the way that you... I gave a small, like, a little mini lesson in how to write different accents in a way that's still readable, and you nailed it. The way that the vowels and consonants sound, if you say it phonetically, if you can sort of perfect the skill of writing phonetically according to what the accent would sound like when it comes out of someone's mouth, it can really it puts you straight in exactly the kind of accent that they have. It is fantastic.
Would it
Really
mean
good
anything
skill.
to you that I got the I had like a Scottish person like vet like that scene?
Oh, cool. Well, when you said northern, I didn't want to go full Scottish, so I went northern English. Like Jon Snow, Game of Thrones type English, like Sean Bean. But Scottish, yeah, Scottish is pretty difficult to do. I have been given approval by a Scottish person for my Scottish accent, though, so at least there's that. I'll take that to the bank. Because if there's one thing that Scottish people and South African people, like, shake hands over, it's how many people butcher our accents. Alright. Here we go. Back when humanity wasn't fighting tooth and nail for survival. Oh my god, sorry. Tooth and nail? Someone who uses the expression correctly? Someone who doesn't, like, say to the nail or tooth and nail, or it's like some weird amalgam. Yes! Incredible! Research for an expression. I'm so happy about that.
Bone apple teeth.
That is exactly how the expression goes. I'm so happy about this. It's like people say for like for all intensive purposes. I'm like, ah! It's great. I love that this is actually the right this is the right expression. By the way, if you thought it was all intensive purposes, it's not. It's all intents and purposes, as in INTENT. It's a legal term. Anyway, let's try again. Back when humanity wasn't fighting tooth and nail for survival, large groups of people had banded together and sought their riches by piercing the ocean floor and sucking it dry for that ever-rare commodity known as oil. One of these groups was responsible for a large swath of rigs in the patch of hellish ocean where I lived. Neptune's Rest, Siren's Folly, and a whole other mess of oil platforms were designed and manufactured by a small team of people nearly a century ago. These people, whose names have been lost to time, took it upon themselves to be efficient down to every steel panel and rivet. One single design for every rig. Since the fall of man, the survivors of our now aquatic civilization could only do so much with what limited space our rigs offered, but still we prospered. Platforms would share what they could. Materials, supplies, ideas, and even manpower. Until Neptune and her neighbors knew what could and could not be done, or what facilities should go where. Little did those old-moiled men and women know that their designs would endure the test of time and the apocalypse. Even more so that their idea remained the same. One single design for every rig. Save for some minor personalized differences, of course. As a result, I, without ever stepping beyond Siren's docks in the past, knew exactly where the growth rooms were. Same place they'd be on Neptune. Up to the main staging area, then up one flight of stairs to the living quarters, and then one more flight up to the growth rooms. This is an incredible way to expose at the reader. To throw exposition because there is a purpose. You enter Siren's Folly, and then it almost feels like this is what Lucas is thinking about before he gets here. And it's like he's acknowledging that he knows where to go because of this, and he starts to reflect on this a little bit. This is how world building is done seamlessly within the story. That is fantastic stuff. Sure. I really am singing your praises today, but it is very impressive.
You have me beaming with joy.
This is very, very good. I still love it. All Northern or just non-standard English accent is just music to my ears, yeah. I've got a few, so maybe I'll treat you to a few more. Anyway, this is good. I like it because I could feel that it was coming. Because when you were like, when the world building starts, I'm like, okay, why are we talking about this? Because he knows where to go as a result. So this whole thing has a singular purpose. And it's like the writer's going, okay, we're going to hold on. Just let me explain some context, and then we'll get back to the story. It's wonderful. You don't spend too much time here. It's exactly where it needs to be and how long it needs to be. It's great. Okay. It didn't take long to reach the first step of that planned-out journey. Navigating the aged walkways up from the dock, I eventually found myself stepping out onto the main platform. Once an open area for workers to keep cargo containers full of supplies, was now a small marketplace for the denizens of this rig to sell off their goods. Food, makeshift weapons, fresh water, and even some people trying to sell trinkets that they've scavenged from long-distance expeditions. True to the dock guard's word, most of the ramshackled bazaar was deserted, while the crew dealt with issues within the station's foundations. The station's foundations. Even the 10 or so people still loitering around here didn't bother with trying to grab my attention as I passed through. Technically bother with is correct, but it feels smoother to say didn't bother trying to grab my attention. You don't have to have the width there. Just a thought. Instead, chatting amongst each other about things unheard. Perhaps the jacket, gloves, and rucksack made me seem more important than I really was. The temporary thought of buying some water to refresh myself popped up in my mind, only to be beaten down by the fact that I just simply didn't have anything to buy it with. Instead, I pressed on, reaching the end of the marketplace at a good pace before slowly ascending up the first flight of steps. My boots echoed against the grated stairs as I ascended, each step driving me closer to my destination. I reached the first landing, finding myself standing beside and staring at the bulkhead door that led into the main block of housing, where the vast majority of Siren's residents slept, ate, and raised the next generation of seafarers. So many memories and lives contained within internal rows of cramped cabins. Reminded me of home and my own little cabin where I first met Adam and his men, crammed into a tiny room like sardines. What I'd give to be back there, sleeping in my bunk. I like the switching between what Lucas is thinking about and what he's doing. The back and forth plays very nicely. A sudden rattle of the stairs railing drew my attention away, prompting me to look up the second flight of stairs to see someone descending from the growth rooms rather quickly. He looked slightly older than me, clad in clothing that told me he was a common addition to a gunboat's crew. Not the engineer, at least. A heavy stubble, a stocky frame, and a dark toque pulled neatly over his scalp gave me the impression, the mental image, that he was a hard worker. I stepped aside as best I could on the small landing, giving him just enough room to step past me as we brushed shoulders before he darted down the first flight. Quietly I watched, wondering if the breach below deck might be worsening. 4 short steps shy of the main platform, he slowly came to a stop. He turned, giving me a quick glance as if his mind only just caught up to him that I was there. Contrary to his looks, his voice was somewhat soft and polite. Thank you for that before I read it out loud. Hey, you just came in. Just docked? He questioned, turning around on the stairs before walking back up to the steps to approach me. I just stared at him for a few seconds before offering a mere nod in reply. From Neptune's Rest? He pried. My heart thumped against the inside of my ribcage. Thinking on my feet, I pursed my lips, then shook my head a little. No, Kraken's Crag. A bit more west than Neptune. I think I saw some fog headed their way, probably delaying their boats. I lied, letting out a cough afterwards to clear the growing lump in my throat. He just stared quietly at me for a moment, a slight frown appearing in his expression. Slowly, my left hand reached back towards the base of my jacket, feeling the sweat form on my brow as I got ready to act on whether he believed me or not. That's whether or not he believed me, yeah. Either take away this first he or change the expression. Suddenly the man slammed his fist against the side of the residential building, probably waking up some poor soul in their cabin. Fuck! Okay, right. Thanks, he muttered before walking the last few stairs to join me on the landing, his earlier urgence now absent. Practically ignoring me at this point, he opened the bulkhead and pushed his way inside before closing the door shut once more. In silence, I just stood there, my breath catching in my chest as I stared at the entrance to the cabins. My hand clenched tightly around the handle of the revolver, and I had to wait for my heart to slow down before my body finally allowed me to let go. Yeah, we knew he had the revolver because he reached into his jacket, and if you're paying attention, I love that this is a sign of the writer trusting the reader to be paying attention. So if he puts his hand in his jacket, he's like, he's got a gun in there. It's awesome. And then, only then at the end, you describe that it's a gun, just in case you forgot. It's really, really good. That's trust in your readers, for sure. Shit. I gasped myself, leaning against the worn railings for support. My knees felt weak, but I forced myself to stay standing. Had I just bumped shoulders with one of Adam's cohorts? Or did I just nearly murder a man over a coincidence? He could have been waiting for a friend or supplies, for all I know. I gave myself no time to dwell on it, bringing an arm up to wipe my forehead against the sleeve of my jacket before I pressed on. A little less calmly than before, I ascended the second flight up to the growth rooms. Stepping through the open door, I spared the time to push it closed with a metallic creak. Here my mind filled with the sounds of running pipes and soft chittering, the small space barely illuminated by a few small lanterns scattered around the room. Makeshift troughs filled with dirt and growing fungus, along with 2 walls lined with caged rats, was the source of most of everyone's meals. If the main staple of your diet wasn't a stew consisting of mushrooms and rodents, you lived a very good life in this world. Also excellent world building. The confined space stunk of fecal matter and death, but I'd lost my breakfast once already, and the smell ranked very low on my list of current concerns. Slowly I walked the space between the troughs and the right wall, listening to the quiet clacking of teeth as underfed vermin tried desperately to reach me from their prisons. Not me knowing that this word is underfed, but one part of my brain went, read undurfed, just in case.
Undurfed.
The quiet clacking of teeth as undurfed vermin. In only a few moments, I reached the other side of the first room, feeling around in the dimmed light until I felt the door handle to the next section. I opened the door, stepped into the second room, and then closed it behind me as I took a breath of somewhat fresher but stale air. Here I found myself in a well-lit room of overly complicated water purifiers, the source of life for most oil platforms and their crew. A mechanical hum rang in my ears alongside the soft trickle of water, as some engineering process I was too layman to understand created clean water from buckets of irradiated swill. I also like this. This is respect for the reader as well, that Lucas doesn't know anything about this. All we need to know is that they have water and they can purify it. I don't actually need to know how they do it, which is really good. For a few precious seconds, I took in the sights and sounds, until from one of the corners I heard the rusted groan of a bolt tightening. I hadn't seen him when I first walked in, but there, knelt next to a toolbox with his back to me, was a man in a red and black jumpsuit facing a corner, and hard at work repairing one of the many pipes lining the room's walls. I did not believe in love at first sight, but finding an engineer to repair Scylla and open Adam's accursed container had made me doubt those beliefs. Hey, listen, I could use a hand, please? The engineer didn't even look at me, instead just lifting his right arm with his index finger raised like he was signaling for me to wait. Pipe. 2 cranks, is all he said in his monotone voice before lowering his arm and returning to his job. I respected his wishes and listened as his wrench creaked against a loose bolt on the piping. Trying to save time, I unslung my rucksack and unbuckled it before slowly pulling the box back out into the light. I waited and listened as he pushed down on his wrench once more before depositing it rather neatly into his toolbox. I've got this thing here that I need opened. I started, watching him rise to his feet and stretch. Then my boats at the dock got shot up pretty badly, and my voice faded as the man turned to face me, all too eager to help me with my problem until he caught sight of the container dangling in my right hand. At that same moment, my eyes shifted from his greasy and bearded face down to the front of his uniform. On his left side, just above where his heart should be, was a rather crude embroidery of his name. Riggs.
Yeah! What do you mean it's finished? What do you mean? What do you mean this is the end of the page, Zareeth?
Fantastic! Give me 18 of them!
God!
Fuck me! God! See, this is what I meant. When I said the writer trusts... When I said when you read, you feel like you can trust the writer because he's like put seeds in that are gonna lead to places I knew they were gonna. I didn't know it was gonna be this soon, but fuck me. Oh. Okay. Let's quickly talk. I want to quickly talk about something that was very interesting to me. First, before I do that, I'm going to talk about the dialogue. Once again, another wonderful point about the writing here is the dialogue feels very natural. Every single person speaks with their own cadence, and I love it. It makes it so unique. It makes it feel so much better. It makes it feel real, and we can connect easily to the characters, and it's just wonderful. So there's that. I also see Lucas. I'm going to talk about Lucas for a second. Lucas is very unsure of himself, but he likes to put on a brave face, but he pauses a lot in his cadence. He doesn't finish sentences. He starts a sentence and then thinks about how he's going to end the sentence in the middle of the sentence. And I love that. I love that he pauses because he didn't think of what else he was going to say because he's too eager. And it really proves his character. He's eager to accept the job. He's eager to go into the fog even though it's very risky. He's eager to lie to this man without really knowing the dude climbing the stairs, without really knowing what the outcome is going to be. He's eager lying to this guy, not knowing what his situation is. Now it turns around and Riggs is the guy that Adam wants to go to, so he knows exactly what that case is, and Lucas has fucked himself. And all of that is illustrated in the way Lucas talks. The way that he talks is unsure of himself and uncertain, and it feels like he doesn't... I don't think Lucas thinks he deserves to be in the captain's seat, especially after everything that has just happened with the Scylla, the fight with the Marauders. And that is reflected in his dialogue, which I love. Like I said, everyone in the dialogue has their own cadence, but I've used that now to link to Lucas himself. As a character analysis, our protagonist is very interesting. I like that he seems very three-dimensional. He's very worried and very, He's very easily stressed, maybe a little bit highly strung. This is the first time something super traumatic has really happened to him, and he's really processing it in a way that I would imagine is reasonable for this universe and for the world that we live in. And this all culminates in him lying to people, not really thinking about the consequences of that. And I think that's foreshadowed, literally, the interaction before talking to Riggs. The interaction with the guy on the stairs is a foreshadowed, well, actually, and even back to the northern, like, the accented dock guard when he starts. Every interaction he's had on Siren's Folly has been a lie. And I think that's really important to remember. He starts with a lie, and maybe the thing is, though, if you lie, sure, you protect yourself in the short term, but like, you're not sure if maybe telling the truth would be more beneficial to you here. Like, if he climbed the stairs and saw that dude on the stairs that, like, turned around and asked where he came from, and he just said, yeah, I've come from Neptune, what could have happened? We'll never know. And that's brilliant, because he was so busy, like, trying to protect himself and his crew, he didn't think to realize maybe I should try and be honest about this, because he actually feels like people at Siren's Folly are kind of hostile. I'm getting the sense that we're in hostile territory because we're doing this from the perspective of Lucas, and Lucas thinks we're in hostile territory. Then he goes to the engineer, and it reaches a climax of lies where he takes the case down and he's like, I need this case open. And he's about to, like, it's not really a lie. It's more like I'm not telling you the whole truth. And then this dude turns around and it's the guy that Adam told us to go see with his dying breath. Like, that's insane. That's crazy. And once again, Lucas puts his foot in it. And it makes for a really interesting character. A protagonist that gets everything right is boring. It's boring. I love characters that put their foot in it. I love characters that have flaws. I love characters that feel ill-equipped to deal with the situation that they're here for. Like, this is why Frodo and Sam work so well in Lord of the Rings, because they are hobbits trying to take an all-powerful ring to throw it into a volcano in the heart of enemy territory in a journey that takes them months and months to complete. Like, they couldn't be more ill-equipped to take the ring to Mount Doom, you know, in the Lord of the Rings. That's what makes their story so compelling. And I think that is what will make Lucas's journey so compelling as well, is that I think he feels completely ill-equipped to handle any of this, and he's just kind of flying by the seat of his pants. That's my character analysis of our protagonist so far. Everything else that I've talked about shines again. Once again, we have the excellent dialogue. We have the descriptions that just can't sit on their own. They have these modifiers attached to them that make them just kind of come alive. Everything on the page comes alive and feels like it has breath to it, and it takes a moment to itself without hogging the spotlight, and then it moves on when it needs to. It's just a lovely balance of tone and pacing, and speaking of tone, there is this underlying atmosphere of dread as well that I think is very well done as well. All of that to say, I think this is another win, my friend. You've done very, very well. This is very, very, very good. Yeah. No, dude, this is awesome. Hello, Aracheesy. We've just finished our reading for today. The stream will be ending soon, but that was Zareeth's writing, who is here in voice chat with us. He's been writing for quite a while, and this was the third. This was like part 3 of his writing installation for us, or installment. Sure. Okay, I'd love to hear what you guys think about things. I'd love to hear your perspectives. I don't just want it to be me talking at you. But that's what I took from it. Like I said, there were some... I noticed if there are going to be things that jump out at me, I usually like to, like, sort of nip them in the bud as I read them. Just like, there. That one, as you saw as I read through it. Really, all I can... If I'm going to, like, really try... I don't really like to try and pick people up on things or criticize or whatever. But anything that I pick up on you... anything I pick you up on is a tiny, like, here's a turn of phrase that could be tweaked. Here's that, and... etc. Like, just incredible stuff, man. It's really, really, really good. I've run out of ways to describe it, but I'm intrigued and I'm invested, for sure. And I think you can be very proud of what you've done. I can tell that. Yeah, go on.
Did that feel like 5,000 words?
No, I sped through that shit. I thought it was gonna take a lot longer because I thought it was gonna be longer, but that was quick. But it meant that I was invested. It's a good thing. Yeah, I can tell. It reads like work went into it, and I really appreciate the hard work that you did to pull this off. So thank you for showing me, and thank you for showing us. A couple of other people who love it as well. Everything very detailed, yes, and the detail was really like classy as well. Like it didn't take up too much time. It just took up the time it needed to and then moved on. It's great. Really, really, really good. Yo. All right, Zareeth. How accurate is my how accurate is my analysis of Lucas? What is he to you?
So it's kind of hard to like describe Lucas for me because, of course, a lot of his characters are like based on the world that he's in. But if you could also, if you imagine like a pizza driver, okay, like a pretty standard job, you make just enough to like pay the bills, and slowly over time you can build up money to like buy more and more stuff.
You get like stuck in a gang war.
Yeah, like, and then suddenly like, oh hey, we need a pizza to this address. We'll pay you like a ridiculous fucking tip if you come here.
Yeah.
You show up. It's a bank robbery.
And it's GTA. Like he's suddenly a GTA protagonist. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and because he's already in that situation, like it's like immediately being implicated. So, for example, in Lucas's shoes, he's been attacked by raiders. His client's dead. So whoever, like, whether the raiders are going to come after him or, like, the client's friends are going to come after him, he's suddenly in it without, willingly being a part of it.
Yeah.
So he's sort of, like, committed, and now he's just trying to find the easiest and quickest way out of the situation. No matter how much lying, you just...
No, go on. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, like, regardless of like how many lies he has to tell, he just wants to keep his remaining crew safe and get them home. Like that's what he's constantly talking about. Like when we get back to Neptune, we're gonna go home. Like we're gonna make it up to your family, and so on and so forth.
The safety for his crew is very clear. I can tell that he has an interest in his crew and keeping them alive and keeping them safe. The other thing is, I was pretty bang on then, that he feels entirely ill-equipped to deal with the shitstorm that has just rained around him. And I think, I feel sorry for him, I really do. And obviously for everyone else who's like lost someone, and I don't think he thought that this is the way that it would go. Obviously he did what he did for money, and you can tell, I remember reading back at first where they gave him so much money where he was like, come on. Like, this is actually kind of scary. Why are they doing this? And why are they hiring me? And there's got to be some catch to this. But it's so much money. And he chooses money instead. And now shit's hit the fan. And I'm sure he feels partially responsible for this. If not entirely responsible. For the way that they are now. Very cool. Very cool. I'm very impressed. There was more world building here than we had in previous segments. I liked, I really find the design of rigs very interesting. That means that everyone knows where what is on every rig. So if you go to a new rig, you know where everything is, so you're not lost. I think that's awesome. It helps facilitate trade and sharing of resources and things. I think it is exactly the kind of, it makes complete sense for a wasteland. Like for a post-apocalyptic story, it would make sense to have settlements where people know their way around if they're new, and it's just easy to navigate, and you kind of you don't have to take, if you're not in a post-apocalyptic world, you can take liberties like having personal customizations and like confusing layouts because it's artistic and everything, but in post-apocalyptic you've got to think utilitarian pretty purely. So if you're going to share with everyone else, you've got to make sure that everyone else can figure their way around your place. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem, and things aren't going to be as productive, which I think is really good. I can only imagine the time and work it takes to create art like this. I agree. And as a writer as well, can corroborate. It takes a while. You also have to, you have to be in the right frame of mind as well. Creativity runs completely antithetical to the way our world currently runs, which is based on profit and productivity. Creativity is completely opposite to that. When I say antithetical, I mean it's opposite. It flies in the face of what we consider to be productive. Creativity, it defies our definitions because we, as a current society, in our current economy, we focus very much on you have a certain time slot where your work day is, and in that time you've got to be productive, and then you go home and then you relax, and everything is set out in a routine to keep us, whatever adjective you like, compliant or consuming or, anything else. It does not lend itself to creativity. This sort of routine that we have that is driven by profit and productivity is not creatively productive at all. So it means that you've got to try extra hard and do that much more work for creativity to actually hit you, and then you go and do something with that creativity. Creativity requires you to change what you've been taught and to realize, without judgment of yourself, that it's okay to write when your brain wants to write and not write when it doesn't. Or to draw when your brain wants to draw and not draw when it doesn't. Creativity does not obey the rules of profit and productivity. It flies in the face of them instead. And so, yeah, it does take that much more work to unlock your brain in that way and to engage with that creativity without judging yourself for it. And I urge anyone here who is creatively inclined to let go of feelings that just because you're not being creative all the time and that you're hitting a writer's block and that you're doing this and doing that any of those things, please try and let go of that feeling of shame, because that is a judgment of yourself that you do not deserve to give.
I think I'm actually like a good example of this, because as I told you, I literally did not touch this since April, late April.
Yeah.
And I just got up with work and then writer's block, and it just reached a point where I pushed it back, and then I think it was sort of Friday, Saturday last week, I got this sudden urge, Dead Abyss just came into my mind. I was thinking of these new ideas that I wanted to have play out in the book, and it's I can't I can't put that to paper unless I do everything before that. So I just sort of I whipped this out Monday to Friday this week. I set myself a goal of 1,000 words per day, and I actually exceeded that on a few days.
Awesome.
I was 4,600 on Thursday.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was ahead of schedule, and then I wrote the last bit yesterday.
That's amazing. Well,
so, yeah, it's one of those things essentially writer's block can hit you, and it is perfectly fine for that to happen. If your body or mind doesn't want to do it, don't force it. And then the moment where you do want to do it, it will come so easy to you. You'll be writing page upon page very, very easily.
That is a lot of how it works. Absolutely. If you are a creative type, and because of the way that we judge ourselves for not being creative enough of the time, something really fairly sad that happens a lot for creative types is that when you are creative, or when you're feeling in a creative mood, the first thought that will come to your brain is, damn, where was this person 2 weeks ago? Just quit that. You're creative now. Engage with that now, before it goes away again. The moment you shame yourself before you've even begun, you're just not going to start then. You'll never start. You've got to get out of that shame cycle and actually just and start doing it when it strikes. And if it takes months to strike, fine. Give it time. But the more you are trying to force it to happen, the less likely it is to actually happen, and for you to actually be struck with that creativity. You've just got to let it be for a while, and it's going to sit, and then it'll come out. Yeah. All right. I think that's really all that we had today. Yes, Zareeth.
Sorry, I want to backtrack a little bit to like the world building bit and talking about like the rigs. And this is something that I've discovered whilst building this world. Is that I have so much like detail going into like the rigs, because if you notice, I said like this patch. So if you move away sort of like from this section of the ocean, there'll be like rigs made by different companies in the old world that will be different. Siren's Folly and Neptune and all that. So like in my idea for like the patch where Neptune is, it's almost like a country without being a country. So like all of the rigs are like their own little towns that work with each other, and the idea of like the militias is like if one rig faces something that they can't handle by themselves, and the other rigs can send their militias to go and help out.
I like that.
Yeah, and I just love this like that when I was writing that, I love the idea of like that there is literally limited space on oil rigs. I think most oil rigs nowadays, anyway, about 200 people max can live on them, like comfortably, quote unquote.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez, there really are not a lot of people, huh?
Yeah. So when you consider that and the fact that oil rigs basically just have one purpose, to drill for oil, that's not a lot of space to do many things. So again, it is this thing of like you can't build too much extra stuff, or the foundations might give away. You have to convert rooms, but then that removes space for whatever other things there are.
I mean, this is just like what it feels. It feels a bit like what's that game? Not Project Zomboid, but like was it Project Zomboid? What was that? What was that game that we played where we were in a big boat and we had like
Barotrauma.
Barotrauma, yeah. It feels, I don't know why, but the vibes are very Barotrauma.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I had a little bit of inspiration from there as well. Just like ocean horror.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say not that you're bringing from Barotrauma. I meant like as you were describing this, I thought this is very Barotrauma. Yeah. All right. Lucky, have you not heard of the GTA 6 joke? That we get like... We get everything before GTA 6 because GTA 6 is like never coming out? Like, it's like Elder Scrolls 6
coming out
as
next
well.
year.
No, it's never coming out, Alfred. It's like Star Citizen.
No, it's Series 10 Doctor Who soundtrack.
Yeah, so my joke
That's never
was,
coming out.
we're getting Siren's Folly before GTA 6 because Siren's Folly also took months to come out. This was the installment. We've just been reading some of Zareeth's writing, Lucky. It was very, very, very good. How are you today? Also, I must implore you, it is 11:30. Why are you still awake?
Because it's Saturday night.
I know it's a Saturday. It's still 11:30 though. That's very late.
Also,
Some people might be working tomorrow.
you say that like you don't routinely stay up until 2 a.m.
I am not very young.
Well, if they sleep in, then it's fine.
Are you planning to sleep late tomorrow? Okay. Well, speaking of which, we are about to end. So, if anyone has any final thoughts to add, now would be the time. If not,
You
then
will get an
we shall
Alfuria
leave it there.
update before GTA 6 as well.
Yes! Incredible. Give it to me. As soon as you have it. Give it to me. Also, this may motivate me to also do it as well. We might get another installment of my own thing soon as well. Yeah, we're about to end. It's late. It's 11:30. I'm sick. This old man has to go to bed. Zareeth,
Ancient.
did you read the thing that I wrote? Because I've read so much of yours, I feel it only fair that you read some of mine.
I should do actually. I didn't you do like a stream about yours? I'm pretty sure
I
you did,
did.
but it was like Yeah, it was one of those ones where I had to sleep.
No, that's okay. You can read it anytime. I left it in the writer's corner. For here, read this. It's not the My Little Pony fanfic. It's above that. I post for the author because the author is anonymous.
That is a sentence. It's not the My Little Pony fanfic. It's the one above that.
No, it's the one above the MLP fanfic. Yeah. It's called Telgrin and the Price of Mercy. Go ahead, and I would love to know what you think about that. It's very short. It's a short intro to my book as well. So yeah. I know, Lucky. Isn't it sad? See, the thing is, if you were asleep, you would never know that we even streamed. So maybe it's a good thing that you stopped in and said hi. Also, you haven't answered me. How are you? How was your day today? Did you do anything fun? Also, any final thoughts from any of you? Going once?
I ask.
Yes.
From everything that you remember from the first half of the book, and then this half that you've read here today, do you have any favorite scenes? Is anything really stuck with you?
Ooh. The one we just did, when he walks up the stairs and the other guy walks down and then stops like he's forgotten something and then turns to look back up at Lucas. That little moment really stuck out with me as a highlight. That was really, really good. I love the way that you did that, because it could have been very easily just a dude who just a dude who runs into Lucas and then stops right there, but he walks past him, then does a double take, and then looks at Lucas from the bottom of the stairs. It's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So that was a really standout moment for me. From what I remember I really loved the unique and pretty terrifying way you described the combat scene, the action scene with the raiders. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really, really amazing way of putting it. It was put in such a panicked way because it was Lucas's POV. And I loved the aspect of chaos that you had to it. You really depicted that really well. That's also another standout to me. And another was... I would say...
Ooh.
Possibly, in the beginning, when they enter the fog, I thought their little exchange before that, before everything went to shit, I think that their exchange as a crew was really nice. It helped establish our relationships quite well. So that was also a standout moment. And another one... I'm trying to get away from the obvious ones, like meeting Riggs or whatever. But yeah, I think those were pretty standout moments for me. Yeah. Those are the things I can remember off the top of my head. But I can remember a lot more. It's just this is those are the things that came to mind as really good ones.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I honestly I live for you reaching the end of the sections that I've written. That there is a hook at the end of each one, and then
a cliffhanger. What an absolute cunt! A cliffhanger of extreme proportions. And then that's the end of the page. Oh,
Yeah.
you're fucking kidding me? That's not cool. Anyway.
It's happened the last 2 times it did the reading, because it was the first time it happened, you're like, wait, that's the end? There's not more? And then the second time you did that, fucking
Yes. I'm still mad. I'm still mad about the one I just read, where it just says Riggs, and that's it. Now I don't get any closure until I have to wait for March of 2025, when creativity strikes again, and we get episode 4.
Gonna have to buy the DLC.
I'm gonna have to buy the DLC. That's what it's gonna be.
I'm going to become his patron.
Yeah, donate to the
yeah,
Patreon.
yeah.
Patrons get early access to new Dead Abyss chapters. Fucking take my money. Good night, Lucky. And speaking of which, yeah, go on.
Sorry. I will say, I think my problem before, and half the reason why I started doing it is because I was trying to do too much at once. So I would go to work, come home, sit down, and sort of let my mind like marinate for a while whilst I try to type, and I'd just do that for like weeks straight.
Yeah.
But now I'm sort of like, I'm gonna try and do like blocks. So like this week has been a block, and then I'm gonna take like the next week off where like I just do my standard job, come home, I chill out, and then probably the week after that I'm gonna dive back into it and do like another block, or
Awesome.
the week after that.
Very cool. Very cool.
So
Well,
it should come to you a lot quicker, and
in
you
all
should get a lot
seriousness-
angrier.
In all seriousness, I'm excited, but never translate that as pressure or judgment on you to be any more creative than is already natural for you. So however long it takes, I'm willing to wait for. I'm very patient. I will never put like genuine pressure on you to be more creative than you're feeling in the moment. So whenever it comes out, and then you give it to me and I will read it and be excited.
I appreciate that.
What if Zareeth suddenly decided to go for a vacation? We never know. I mean, I think a vacation would be very good for Zareeth, considering he works like 6 out of 7 days a week, and which should be illegal. And
Absolutely should be.
And
I
here
would
he
love
is,
for that to be illegal.
still cranking out incredible bangers for us again and again and again. All right. On that note, I've strained my voice enough. Thank you, Zareeth, for making sure that I wake up with an even more sore throat the next day. and I appreciate your writing very much, and I'm very, very happy that we got more of this. And thank you for submitting it, and thank you for working so hard on it. I really, really, really liked it.
Thank you so much for reading, MJ. I cannot wait until this is finished and I hire you as the audiobook man.
Your official audiobook reader. I'm there.
Hell yeah.
If you pick anyone else after hyping me up to be this, I might throw a chair at you. I'm just gonna let you know.
It is definitely you. I might hire someone else just to do the female bits, but yeah.
Oh. All right. Well.
I don't know. I think MJ makes a pretty good woman.
I mean, hey.
He is quite feminine.
According to like Olympic boxers, I guess it kind of anything goes apparently. So there is that, and
True.
everyone is trans apparently. That's something that we've learned. Anyway, if you haven't learned about that, you should. That's a whole different thing that I'm not going to talk about now, but it is important to learn about because it's a lovely lesson in how some people these days are just willing to say literally anything. Anyway, thank you, my friends in Discord, for spending time with me today, and I shall now love and leave you, so I hope you have a wonderful day further, and take care, and Alfred and Rain, chop chop, get writing.
Thank you, MJ.
Goodbye, friends. See you
Goodbye.
later. All right, everyone. What a lovely time. An amazing reading stream. What a lovely addition to our collection of reading streams. I'm so thankful that you've been here today. It is 11:42 in South Korea. What a lovely, timely way for me to end the stream as well. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful day further, no matter how you've engaged with this content, whether you're watching the VOD, whether you've been lurking in chat, whether you've been around. It's just been wonderful to have you here. Thank you for your presence, for your insights, for your knowledge, and thanks for spending time with me today so we can experience this wonderful reading together. Next week, I don't know what we're going to do. Probably Fallout London a little bit. Probably My Child Lebensborn. Maybe some music. Who knows? Stay tuned for next Tuesday, where we do it all over again. Stay hydrated, be kinder to yourself than you're currently being, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!